What's up YouTube, HPJ here, and I am coming at you guys with one of the many deck profiles that will be featured on the channel during the anniversary month. So I am taking in all of these lists and I am building in profiling. So the first up is this Harpie deck profile from Christopher. He sent it to me via Facebook. This is variation of Harpie Lady that he's currently working on, currently building, and of course getting ready for all the new support coming out in January. So without further ado, let's get started. So we have he has three copies of Harpie Chandler, three copies of Perfumer, three copies of Harpist, two copies of Oracle, two copies of Dancer, two copies of Harpie Queen, two copies of Harpie Lady 1, one copy of Cyber Harpie Lady, and a copy of the Berry Statue of Storm Wind. For the spells, there's three copies of Hysteric Sign, two copies of um, Harpie's Hiding Ground, a copy of Elegant Aegis, a copy of Harpie's Feather Roosting, a copy of Split Mirrors of Seduction, a copy of Divine Wind of the Mist Valley, Monster Reborn, and two copies of Ties of the Brethren. For the traps, we got three copies of Harpie's Feather Storm, two copies of Hysteric Party, two copies of Solemn Strike, one copy of Solemn Judgment, one copy of Solemn Warning, and that is the lineup for the main deck. For the extra, there's three copies of Harpie Conductor, one copy of Cerberus and Phoenix, Nightmare Phoenix and Nightmare Cerberus. We have a copy of Ray Raptor Blade Burner Falcon, a copy of Gaga Cowboy, a copy of Abyss Dweller, a copy of Lightning Chidori, a copy of Castell, a copy of Ice Beast Zero Falcon, a copy of I said Lightning Chidori, a copy of Harpie's Pet Phantasmal Dragon, a copy of Tornado Dragon, a copy of Babuska, and a copy of 101 Silent Honor Art. So this is sequentially his entire lineup for his deck profile. Now, I do have a lot of positives and negatives to say about this deck. I think the one thing that I do love about it is that it is trying to incorporate a very stun-like aspect by staying within the attribute itself, with a combination of both the Ties of the Brethren and Barry Statue of the Storm Wind. This is actually something I was playing similar to not too long ago, before we got Great Fly, and then a little bit after we got Great Fly. And the great thing about barrier statues is once you find a way to summon them into your attribute-based deck, you can go ham with a lot of your extra deck monsters and not really have to worry about anything because you can make up for a lot of things in it. Especially when it comes to the barriers that you variant of Harpies, because Harpies have a ton of wind monsters. We have access to. We have Chidori. We have access to multiple Castells. We have our Phantasmal Dragon. And now that we have Harpie Conductor, we can really sit on a lot of things that our extra decks couldn't sit on because of the limitations within the rulings that are Master Rule 4 and Link Summoning. So with Barrier Statue plus Ties of the Brethren, this opens up a lot more success for Harpies, but this also drawbacks a lot of things. Remember, once you play this card, you cannot special summon after this card resolves. So the only things that are probably going to be on the field are the monsters that are summoned. So late to end game, mid to late game, you don't want this. You want something a little more faster, a little more powerful. But if you can get this early game, get the barrier statue on the field and protect it fast enough, you're going to be specifically fine. Especially considering the fact that you'll have access to Divine Wind of the Mist Valley, one of Wind's most reliable field spells, because of the fact that it helps you get Wind monsters by using one of Wind's biggest tactics, returning monsters to the hand. Now, it may not seem like one of the biggest tactics Wind has, um, primarily since one of the biggest Wind archetypes in the game is, well, still Harpie Lady, and has most of its drawings through its field spell, Harpie's Hunting Ground. But with Divine Wind, it gives a range of a lot of wind monsters and attributes to wind attributed archetypes to benefit from a returning of a wind monster to give you a normal summon of one. A special summon of one from the deck. So with this, you could use this card in stuff like Yosenju, Shiranui. I do believe, if I'm not mistaken, there are a few others, but just due to what the limitations are, um, Divine Wind is only meant for like a handful of wind decks that can actually benefit from it. Also, you can also benefit from just spells and traps that return cards on the field as well, and get a lot of uses out of them. I'm looking at Harpie Dancer, Harpie Harpist, who tend to be one of the bigger components to this effect in the additional effects that come with Harpie Conductor. So Divine Wind probably will never see the light of 2 or 3 in a very long time because of how useful it becomes with a lot of the other Harpie support. Now, speaking of Harpy support, I think inside we talk about one of, I think, the biggest aspects of this deck, and it is Harpy Chandler. Her ability to special summon her kin from the deck by discarding a Harpy card. There's so much now that allows Harpy Chandler to just say, I'll discard whatever. And because of monsters like Oracle and Perfumer, you can go get the other copy of it, or you can retrieve it from the graveyard during the end phase and not have a problem about it. This deck doesn't run any dragons except for Phantasmal. And although you would get a bigger benefit from a level 5 or higher with a lot of the newer card effects, this is a more of a rank 4 spam variation that can work if you stick to the level 4 win rank 4 setup and do perfectly well. You also should note that Harpies have one of the best link summoning setups in the game because they have access to a card like Harpy Chandler. They have access to Harpy Oracle through her effect. You have Hysteric Sign to search for Ego, and Ego can help you get out more Harpies. And of course, our ever faithful trap card, Hysteric Party, which is one of the biggest key components to Harpies. And I think, honestly, kept Harpies around till we got Harpy Chandler. Because for a 1-card discard, you get as many Harpy Lady monsters from your graveyard to the field as possible. Now, the big thing about it is he's running 18 variations of Harpy Lady. I would have cut a Solemn Strike just to make this another Hysteric Party. Now, some people may say that may be a little too cloggy, but he's not running Harpy Sisters. He's not running the Elegant Harpy Lady. Yeah, Reborn in ties with Brother and helps summon monsters from the deck, but you need to focus on the graveyard when it comes to Hysteric Party, and if you can fill the graveyard up fast enough, with enough cards you want to special summon, back to the field with the effects of Hysteric Party, you should be perfectly fine. And the whole thing about the dead draws, I mean, everybody will have dead draws when you're running multiple cards. It's however you use the cards themselves to set up. Because this deck does lack one thing, and that's the general draw power. But then when I look at Harpy's Feather Roosting, I'm like, oh, that's right. We have a 2-for-1, a Pot of Avarice, and a draw card. The only downside, like I said, is even though he's running Harpy Chandler, there isn't a dragon, so you can't get the bonus of her being a level 5 or higher monster. Unless Phantasmal's already on the board and you have not used this yet, or you've retrieved it thanks to the effects of Harpy Oracle. Now, in this sense, I think a lot of people are still back and forth with how they want to use Harpy's Feather Roosting. If they want to use Harpies for the roosting, and just the good girl said, is it still a good enough card for us? I think it's personally a really good card for us to use, despite the fact that it's going to drag out Hysteric Party because it's going to send Harpy Ladies back to the deck. But the way that the Harpies send a lot of cards to the graveyard anyway, this should not be a problem if you need to recover your key pieces, i.e. your Harpy Chandlers, your Harpy Harpists, and your Perfumers. So at least Harpies can have search targets if you've already used one. Perfumer can go back to the deck as well as Chandler so that they can get their plays off without having to say I'm in the graveyard and I need to be partied or reborn in order for me to do something. So this, one of the biggest benefits with this card is deck refreshing. Yeah, it doesn't refresh the spells and traps, but hey, you have Oracle or Perfumer to help you with that. To search them out or put them back into your hand. Now, a large portion of this deck, as much as I had said this deck has the defenses thanks to Statue, there's nothing protecting Statue except for giving it attack power in Featherstore. Yeah, we have the strikes and we have the judgment and the warning, but so does every other deck. You also have to be careful because Ultra Geist is still a deck, and they have Secret Village. So you gotta find some ways to deal with Secret Village of Spellcaster because that is a nasty card to run into when it comes to Harpies. Because we don't have most of us are not summoning Summoner Monk or not playing Summoner Monk, and that would be a great out. So maybe it's an idea if he's watching, side in some monks. Try to fit in Summoner Monk if you can, because Monk is gonna really help you in that matchup against. Ultra, guys. Another thing I can advise for this deck is, of course, the ever faithful anti-spell break. Actually, I should put a lot of these cards up here. Huh? Was that Summoner Monk I was mentioning? Yeah, Summoner Monk. Yeah, so Monk. And then, of course, the anti-spell fragrance. Now, I don't advise him to main this because I can already see. Oops, I spell acupuncture. Spell. There we go. So, the thing about anti-spell is anti-spell in combination with the Harpie ladies, we have our field spell. You have this face up. Yeah, we're setting our spells, but so is your opponent. And because a lot of decks outside of the Ultra guys benefit from the large amount of spell cards they're playing, if you can slow them down from using so many of them, you're pretty much set. And I think one of the biggest decks that hurts from anti-spell that's still around is, of course, Sky Striker aces. And especially considering the fact that their whole gimmick is fill our graveyard with as many spells we've activated, retrieve them, return them, and then go off after. And with Harpies, you can use anti-spell to really slow them down and really benefit from slowing them down. I think anti-spell is probably one of the most underrated floodgates just because it's still a continuous trap, and a lot of the trap cards that are floodgates that do help a lot of decks just ended up getting limited or banned. Mm, excuse me. So you do see a lot of benefits from both sides, but I think honestly these two cards can be beneficial if they're sided in. They don't have to be made that just sided in. But I do like the Solemn Brigade because at least slows down what stuff your opponent will try to throw at you. The Split Mirrors of Seduction is just a quicker way of getting your Harpy ladies to the field. Now, I don't like the whole they have to be destroyed by battle portion of this card's effect, even though it does give you access to your dragons. But I do love the whole ooh, excuse me, when it's destroyed by your Harpy card effect or your opponent's card effect. Because this gives leeway to Conductor in her first ability, which is she'll protect your Harpy monsters by sending a spell and trap card you control to the graveyard. So if you can send Split Mirrors of Seduction to the graveyard, bam, you have a way to protect your Harpy monsters. It's also something that I'll point out when I get to Conductor. Um, this Whitmer's secondary effect is to special summon a Harpy from your graveyard. That means any Harpy. It doesn't specify if it's Harpy Lady or has Harpy Lady in its name. So if you summon Harpy Sister, she got destroyed, you can special summon her with Split Mirror Selection and benefit from it because bam, you just put Harpy Sisters back on the field. You can put your dragons onto the field. You can put any of your other Harpy ladies on the field and start getting their effects off, or retrieve them so you can go into link plays and exceed plays. So that's pretty much it for the main deck as far as that goes. I think it's really nice to see the combination of Nightmare, Phoenix, and Cerberus. Cerberus just does what Phoenix does, except it removes monsters. I don't like the fact that they point up and they point to the left or right, which means you'd have to have at least Conductor already on the board and then go into these. Another thing I didn't like about the Nightmare engine is most of them say monsters with different names. So unfortunately, it does hurt the Harvey ladies unless you've already link summoned and or exceed summoned and you're going to another card. That's the only big drawback with the Cerberus monsters because I don't see scapegoats or stuff like that, which it tends to work here and there. Um, I'll talk about Conductor in a minute, but I do want to go through a lot of the other stuff. I honestly do like the toolbox engine of Wind, going from Tornado Dragon and Phantasmal. You have Castell and Chidori, who are pretty much the same card, just different type, different typing, less attack, and can remove stuff legitimately. And I think the four of them are tremendous. Then we add in the fifth element, which is the Ice Beast Zero Fine. Although she's not a winged monster, she is winged beast, so she gets 200 from Harpie's hunting ground. Not to mention, when your opponent is flooding the field with cards, Ice Beast can negate it. They're gonna sit there frozen till your next standby phase, and she's gonna be a giant beat stick depending on how many cards your opponent controls and you, because that's how many cards she's gonna be gaining attack from that's all on the field. And honestly, I love Zero Five. I think she's a great ascension to the Harpie next week she came out. She's still a great ascension even now, and she's just an overall really good setup monster. So some people are probably going to say, why is Abyss Dweller here? That's Cowboy, and I'll get to him too. But Dweller is pretty much here to lock out these heavy graveyard filled decks. A lot of cards that like to retrieve stuff from the graveyard or try to retrieve themselves and special summon stuff. So you have access to Dweller who can help you mitigate that. And everyone who remembers Dweller has a lot of benefits to himself. One-on-one Silent Honor Arc is probably one of the random moments, but Arc does have is still one of the classic rank 4 monsters that if I get summoned, I'm snatching a special summon monster, I'm attaching it to myself, and then I want to protect myself by discarding the material. It does kind of unfortunately factor into the whole it's kind of been outplayed, but if it works for someone, let it work for that person. Cowboy is here for the 800 burn because the time rolling. And I know that becomes a big factor for a lot of players. And just me, I know about that as well. Babushka is just a stall situation monster. That's pretty much what I've been referring to him as. Um, sit on in defense. Force your opponents to not do anything with their monsters for 2 to 3 turns. And then when you're ready to go off, switch you to attack mode, get your other monster in the field. If you have to use for a link monster, let it be. Or otherwise, I hope your field in your graveyard is getting ready to just spam Harpie ladies to swing and take stuff out. Speaking of swing and taking stuff out, Blaze Burner Falcon was a late entry into a lot of Harpie decks because of. Sorry about that. I didn't think the Runaway Guys thing was gonna show up. I have to correct that in just a second. Um, but yeah, it is just a really good winged beast. That's the one thing I can always say about Raid Raptors is Raid Raptors are really good when it comes to their extra deck. Unfortunately, their main deck isn't. So, yay. Um, But I do like the fact that we do have access to Blaze Burden because we are Winged Beast. And he can remove stuff from the field depending on the number of material he has that he's detaching. And he makes himself a beat stick if your life points are in your opponents are 300 or different. Different 3,000 or more. No, I'm sorry. I'm saying that wrong. If your opponent's life points is 3,000 and more than yours, this thing gains 3,000, so it becomes it becomes a 4,000 beater, and can blow up stuff right after the damage step. So, it is a lot of benefits to this card as well, and with some time, we have plenty of time. So, Harpie Conductor, our Link monster, our pretty much the conductor of the deck. Because you're gonna go into her sometimes. Now he's running 3 copies of it, and I think everyone's gonna probably run 2 to 3 of these because she's Harpie Lady while she's on the field in the graveyard. So his third party is gonna have a. There's going to be a spell that Harpies have. I mean, there's going to be. Sorry, I'm wording these wrong. We have a monster from the extra deck that is Harpie Lady that his third party can special summon, which we never thought we'd have, and now we have her. So the benefits to her is the fact that she can protect our Harpie cards from being destroyed by battle and card effect by sending a spell or trap we control. So dead cards, not to mention Hysteric Sign, because Hysteric Sign is one of the biggest cards you want to send to the graveyard, so that you can trigger this card's effect off during the end phase. With Harpie Conductor, that's not too hard to do. If this was playing the Elegant Harpie Lady, you could send that to the graveyard and get its beneficial effects. In which to search for a Harpie monster and add it to your hand. She's not going to be too prevalent in the sense of a lot of things, but she will be resourceful nonetheless. She's going to be a really good monster. She's going to have a lot of stuff to defend, and her last effect I've seen people abuse and use through testing, and that's her whole return this as a monster back to the hand if one of your Harpy monsters other than herself is returned to the hand. So you have a lot of benefits from her, and although she is the hysteric card that we're looking for, excuse me, she is still a beneficial monster to the Harpy deck because she ranges in more than what a lot of the cards we currently have ranged. So I'm excited for her. I overall, my opinion on this deck is it's very good. It's very well organized, but it needs a lot of defensive setup. It needs a lot of defensive protection. So cards that will protect the barrier statue, if that becomes its setup. But it is doing what it is doing to set out, and that's summoning the Harpies and conducting Harpy stuff. And it's just an overall great card. Overall, it's a really good deck. It is. It's a really good deck. There's just a lot of things that it has to be cautious of, especially Ultrageist, their Secret Village. I even heard some of them are citing in anti-spell, which, ugh. An anti-spell fragrance face up with a face up Secret Village, and then you have to deal with the Ultrageists. Right, Genki and Darkhold are going to be some prevalent things this deck also needs to side in. It doesn't have to main it, but siding in is a good thing for me to say in terms of suggestions. So it's a lot of things here that are good. There's a lot of things here that are bad, and overall, is a workable deck. It still has a lot of potential to be very, very good. Just it needs a lot of defense. But that's the only thing I can say about it. So, Christopher, I hope you enjoyed seeing your deck here. I hope you guys also enjoy it as well. And if you have any questions for Christopher, please leave it in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. And I will see you guys next time for the next deck profile. Thanks everyone. HPJ signing out. Take care.